so much for joining me for episode 12 of Knitting by the Bay. My name is Christy, and this is my little place on YouTube where I love to talk about all things making, mostly knitting, but sometimes sewing, sometimes embroidery or cross stitch or whatever I'm into at the moment. Today's episode is a very special one for two reasons. The first reason is that we've hit 2,000 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing, and it totally blows my mind, but that is so wonderful. The second reason is because this is my 1-year anniversary. So I guess my first episode was last September when I first started this channel, and yeah, it's been a year of making videos talking about all of this fun fiber crafts. So I hope I've been doing all along one video a month pretty much, other than in the summer. And I'm hoping to get to do more than that, to do maybe a video every 2 weeks. I just feel like now with more doing more sewing and other crafts, and now that my son's back in school, I have more time for, knitting and everything. So I have more things to share with you. So I'd like to move into doing maybe every 2 weeks. I don't know if that's going to happen all the time, but I'm hoping to get more on a schedule of every 2 weeks. So anyways, today's episode, I have a lot of things to share with you. I have one finished object. Actually, I have two-ish finished objects, and I'll explain why it's an ish and not totally a finished object. I have two whips. I have I have two finished sewing projects. And I also have one special embroidery project that I'm working on right now. So if that sounds like something you're into, please grab yourself something to drink and maybe grab your knitting, and let's get started. So you'll notice I'm not wearing any knitwear today, and that is because it is still very, very warm outside. I think it's about 25 degrees Celsius right now, so it definitely does not feel like fall by any means. So I am not wearing any of my knitwear, but I'm gonna hold everything up to show you, and I'll put in some pictures or maybe some video so you can see how it looks on me. But my first finished object is the sweater Forager, and this is by Isabel Kraemer, and this is a sport weight sweater. I decided to knit mine in Rerum Natura in the color Tempete. And I've got it hooked on the other hanger here. Sorry. Okay. So if you're new to sewing or to knitting, I don't recommend putting your knitting on a hanger like this. I'm only doing this to show you what it looks like. I think it looks you can see a lot more of it when it's on the hanger, but don't do this normally with your hand knit sweaters. So yeah, this is my finished Forager. It is worked seamlessly from the top down, and then you shape the yoke by using a modified version of the contiguous set-in sleeve method. I have my notes here, otherwise I forget everything. Yeah, it has these beautiful mock cables that go down. There's two of them on the side. I know it's hard to see because it's such a dark yarn, but there you go. You can see that better. So it's not a real cable, it's a mock cable. You don't need a cable needle or anything. It's very easy to do. And it's a lot of fun to do, actually. So that has it going down the sleeves, going down the front, going down the back, and then two of them at the sides. And it also has this really cool twisted braid, it's called, that you do before the cuffs and before the hem for the ribbing. And I don't know if you can see that very well. Anyway, that's a lot of fun to do. So I've never done a twisted braid before, but you have to join another ball of yarn. So you're working with two yarns at the same time, and you're gonna purl across the row. But every time you purl on the first row, you have to take the one yarn underneath the other one and purl. And then you take the next yarn and go underneath the last one and purl. And you just keep going underneath, and it creates this twisted braid. The next row you're gonna go over and then purl, over and purl. So I don't know if I did it correctly. Like, I think it looks like it turned out how it should, but my yarns just kept getting like tangled up. they would just get twisted because it's like a twisted braid. So that could be how it's supposed to go. And then every, 10 stitches, I would take the yarns and untwist them and then start again, if that makes sense at all. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun to do. It was fun to watch this braid appearing. And it also has a really cool detail here at the sleeve caps. You do this sort of, it looks like a faux seam on the sleeve caps. I thought that that was a really cool design. And I thought the pattern was really well written, very easy to understand. One little thing that I didn't love about the pattern, I did read other people saying this, is she gives like so much detail. It's great, but the way that it's set up on the page is all the sections are all squished together. I think it could have been better if they were sort of separated by spaces and stuff, because it was hard to, like, when you're looking at it, hard to keep track of where you were in the pattern. Like, I had to use like a ruler and just follow along that way. That's not really a big deal. Otherwise, everything else was explained very well, and I definitely would love to knit another one of Isabel Kraemer's patterns in the future. I love the shape of this sweater. To me, it looks like a sweater you would buy in a store, but in the very best way possible. I just think it fits so perfectly. So when I blocked this one, I really wanted it to have a boat neck collar on it. And so I really stretched this out, and I thought it didn't look big enough. And I don't know if it was my gauge or whatever, it did fit a little bit smaller when I finished it, because I ended up making one size bigger than I normally do, because I wanted it to be more of a relaxed, oversized sort of fit. But when I was finished and tried it on, it wasn't really as big as I wanted it to be. So I sort of stretched it out a little bit. Well, a lot actually. And then when it was dry, I tried it on and it looked good, but it was just a little like too big. And I don't know, I was going back and forth. Should I try and reblock it again? I don't know what will happen. Like, I didn't know if you stretch it out so much if it can come back to its original shape. But it just kept bothering me. I thought it was just a little bit too big across here. Bra straps are showing and stuff. It was just too wide. So I ended up reblocking it, and it worked out perfectly. I was able to it shrunk back up again, but I was able to kind of I went by the measurements instead of what I thought. I went by her schematic or whatever. And yeah, it ended up blocking out to the perfect size. So I love it so much. I can't wait for the weather to get cooler so I can wear this one. Let me see. Yeah, so what I've been doing lately is knitting until I separate for the sleeves. And then I just keep going down the body until I run out of that ball of yarn. And then I put the body on hold and I do the collar, like the neckband, and I do the sleeves. And then I come back and I finish the rest of the body, because I just want to make sure that I have enough yarn so that the sleeves are. I also read that if you do your sleeves first before you do your collar, when you come back to do your collar, it can pull up on your sleeves. And so your sleeves get a little bit shorter than you intended them to be. So yeah, that's what I've been doing lately. And I really like that, because then once you're done, once you go back and finish the body, you're done the entire sweater. You don't have to come back and then do 2 sleeves and then do the finishing, the collar and all of that. So I'm really liking it that way. Another thing, she has you do a lot of decreases on your sleeves. And I guess, again, it's because of my gauge. I kind of did a half gauge swatch. I didn't really do, I just kind of checked the stitch gauge like I usually do. But anyway, she has you do a whole bunch of decreases. And I did the first set of decreases and I kind of tried it on my arm, and it already looked like slim enough. I didn't want to decrease anymore. So I just did the one set of decreases, and I'm very happy with how the sleeves turned out. Also, this sweater kind of is supposed to be flared out in the body, and I didn't want too much of a flare. So I just did one set of increases for the body, and I'm really happy that I did that. I like the shape of it. And what else did I want to say? So this yarn, the Rerum Natura Ulysse, this color bled a ton. Like while I was knitting, my fingers were turning blue. And then when I blocked it, there was so much blue in the water. So I think if you were doing some sort of color work where you're using a very light color and then this blue, you might run into the color bleeding, and that might not be great. So just be aware of that. But otherwise, I love the yarn. I love the color of it. I love the feel of it. And yeah, super happy with my Forager. Definitely recommend this pattern. All right, so my next finished object is actually one that I finished at the beginning of the year. I think it was either December or January of this year. And it is my champagne cardigan. And if you've watched my episodes before, you might have seen it. I knit the champagne cardigan in Cascades 220 Superwash in, I think it was just the color blue. It just said blue. And it was a very bright blue. I'll put a picture up of what it looked like. And I actually never ever wore this once. And that one I finished at the beginning of the year. And I haven't worn it one time. And so I thought, like, that's such a, I hate having my knits just sitting there, and I'm like, I'd rather just donate them and get them out of the house so I'm not feeling guilty about not wearing them. But then I started to think about, like, maybe I could over dye the sweater. I've never done that before, but I thought, what's the worst that could happen? I don't wear it already. So if I just, try it out, it'll be a fun experiment. So I did, and I used some Rit Dye in the color navy blue, and it was a lot of fun, pretty easy to do. The hardest part I found with it was, when you've got to rinse out the color after, it took forever to rinse the sweater out, and you're trying not to keep squeezing your knitting, but by the end of it, I had to do that. And that's probably the thing that took the longest. But yeah, so I'm going to show you what it looks like now. Yeah. So I'm super happy with this. I feel like it's become like a much more wearable sweater for me, having it this dark color, especially as we're going into the fall. I think it'll just go with my outfits a lot better. Yeah, and I ended up just removing the buttons and putting the same ones back on, and I think that these ones look pretty good. I asked for people's opinions on my Instagram about which buttons to do, and I had some dark wooden buttons as well. So I was asking these ones, which are sort of like a white pearly sort of color. And so I said either the dark wood or the pearl buttons. And most people, pretty much everyone, said the dark wood buttons. And I ended up going with the pearl ones anyway. And I'm happy with how it turned out. I really like the pearl ones. I think the dark wood ones would have looked good as well. But yeah, that's what I did. So yeah, I'm super happy with this. I totally recommend it if you've got a sweater that you don't like the color of. It was pretty easy, and I think the sweater took the dye very well. I think I left it in the dye for the maximum amount of time. I think it said like 30 to 60 minutes, and I ended up leaving it for an hour in there. I just wanted to make sure, since it's such a dark color. Yeah, I love it. One thing I was worried about was it ruining my sink. Like, I have a stainless steel sink, so I was thinking, it's stainless steel, it shouldn't stain. But I was kind of a little worried about that. And it did, like, once I rinsed the water out, it did have a line of dye around the top of the water level. So I ended up just using like a SOS pad and scrubbing that out. It didn't really take too long, and it came clean. So yeah, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. You can also do, I was reading on their website, on the Rit Dye website, you can actually do it all in your washing machine. So you put the dye in the washing machine and everything. And yeah, I didn't want to do I was like really worried about ruining the washing machine. So I didn't do that, but I have watched videos about it and it seems to dye it and come out very well. So another thing you have to do, because this is wool, you have to put in vinegar in with the dye as well. So I think if you're doing, I'm not totally sure, but I think if you're doing like cotton wools or something, you need to put salt in with it. But if you're doing wool, you have to put some vinegar in with it. And it tells you how to do that as well. And then I just took the sweater and I put it in my washing machine, and you put it in the washing machine with a towel and put some wool wash in there. Yeah. And then I actually put it in the dryer as well. And this is Superwash wool, so I wasn't, worried about it felting or shrinking or anything, and it turned out great. So yeah, super happy with that. So if you're ever thinking about it, I totally recommend, doing overdying your knits. So let's get into some of my works in progress that I've got going on right now. My first one is the home cardigan, and it's by Caidree. And this is an oversized cardigan with a simple like ribbed button band and drop shoulders. And it's supposed to fit sort of oversized and hit you at the hips. And so I am knitting mine in my Lion brand Fisherman's wool. This is a very squishy, it's sort of very rustic, heathered sort of brown, a grayish sort of brown. I was concerned that it was going to be too scratchy, but I actually don't find it that scratchy now that I'm knitting it, and I've tried it on a few times. I really, really like it. I like the squishiness of this yarn, and I've decided to pair it with Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in the color linen, and I really liked that combination together. This is a little bit lighter than I'm not sure if I told you the color of this. It's brown heather. And yeah, I liked the combination of those two held together. And so this is what I've got done so far. So I am doing what I did before with my forager, and I knit until I ran out of my yarn, and then I started on the sleeve, the first sleeve. Yeah, so I think this is actually the first time I've knit a drop. Sorry, my needles are clanking on the table. A drop sleeve sweater before, but I'm really liking it a lot. I really like the mohair and the fisherman's wool together. Like I said, it's super squishy, and yeah, I'm really enjoying that. This is a bulky weight sweater, so it's knitting up super fast, and I'm really liking it. I used to really not like the look of bulky knitting patterns, and I don't know why, because I really like the look, like how it's turning out, and it's knitting up so quickly. Like I think I started this about a week ago. So I'll have this done by my next video for sure. So yeah, again, the instructions for this are super clear. You are going to, you start on the back and you just work back and forth on the, back and forth on the back. And then you put those stitches all, like it's just a rectangle, and then you put those stitches on hold, and you kind of flip it and you start from the top and you pick up your stitches for your shoulders, and then you start knitting over, and then you're going to connect it and start not knitting in the round because it's a cardigan, but knitting back and forth in stockinette. Yeah, so I think this pattern is actually really good for a beginner because it's very well written, very easy to understand. She gives a lot of information, and you're knitting it with a bulky weight yarn, and I should say the needle size is 10.5 US 10 and a half, and I'm not sure what that is, the millimeters, but it's a US 10 and a half. So it's knitting up super fast. So you get to see your progress really quickly. And I think that's great for a beginner. And I think you're doing a lot of purling, obviously. So I think, again, that's great for a beginner to practice your purling, because everyone seems to not like purling. Definitely we like knit stitches much better than purl stitches, but I don't mind the purling on this one because it's bulky. It goes by really quickly. You don't have as many stitches on the needle, even though it's a super oversized cardigan. You don't have as many stitches on your needles, and so it goes by really really quickly. I think the pattern suggests that you knit it to like your hips. I think I might knit it a little bit longer than that. Like I want it to feel like sort of a coat sweater type of thing. Yeah, so I'm loving my home cardigan so far, and definitely recommend this pattern as well. My next work in progress is a pattern I was asking you guys again for your opinion of which one I should do. If I should do, I was thinking the Yule Do by Isabel Kraemer or the Autumn Alpine by Caitlin Hunter. And again, everybody suggested that I do the Yule Do, and I decided to do the Autumn Alpine instead. And the reason I decided to do that, and I definitely do want to knit too in the future. But the reason I wanted to do the Autumn Alpine right now is because I saw this color of yarn and it just really spoke to me and it made me feel so happy. So I decided I wanted to do the Autumn Alpine because I like the Scandinavian like folk style of the color work, and I thought it would look really good. This is the yarn I got. So this is the Rerum Natura Ulysse in the color Lagon. It's Lagon. And it's a dusty sort of aqua. And I really love that color. And I decided to pair it with this one, which is Poivre Blanc. And I love that combination together. And I know that this is not a very autumn color palette here. It's very spring-like, but I don't care. I just thought that the flower motif in the yoke of this sweater would look so pretty with these two colors. So I have started, and also I know people had suggested the Yule Do because I also had a lot of problems with a couple of my patterns that I did by Caitlin Hunter, and especially with the neck fit of those sweaters. And in my last episode, I was talking about my Birkin sweater and how I was having so much trouble with that one, just funneling up the neck. And so I thought You know, this is the Autumn Alpine is a newer pattern. I think she released this maybe last autumn. And but I think that maybe she's kind of gotten a little things a little bit of those issues sorted out now. So I decided to cast it on and cross my fingers and, you know, hope that it worked out. And it has so far. So I'll show you. I'm not sure which is the front or the back. Let me see. There. Okay. So this is what I've got going on so far. And it's making me so happy. I knit this pattern already in the spring this year, but I didn't like my yarn choice. I talked about that in my last episode. It was I used like an alpaca that was just too scratchy for me. And so, but I really enjoyed the process of making it. So I'm happy to knit it again. Normally I don't want to knit the same pattern over again, especially for, you know, color work, because, you know, once you've done it, you've done it. So I want to move on to other things, but I really, really liked this one and I really want to have this in my wardrobe. So this is what I've got so far. I put it on some scrap yarn so that I could try it on and you can see the fit of the neck of this one. So I'm going to take my microphone off so I don't make noises. So yeah, it has turned out really well. The collar just sits very nicely and I'm still doing some increases in the color work here. So it's going to come out even more to fit over my shoulders. And yeah, so I have to say this one is working out great as far as the pattern goes. As far as my knitting goes, I just realized, I guess last night, that I've made a mistake here. And I'm going to try and find it. Yes, it's here. So it should have these little flowers, like these two little flowers here. And I don't know what I did here. It's a mess. I don't know. I don't know how that happened. And so I was trying it on last night and I thought, like, you know, it's at the shoulder. I don't really notice. If it was right here, I would really hate that, but it's on the shoulder and maybe no one will notice. But then I thought, I really, you know, I've been taking the time to knit this. I paid the money for the yarn. I should try to make it as, you know, good as I can. I totally am of the opinion that crafting should be relaxing and fun, and it's not about being perfect or anything, but it won't kill me to unpick a few rows and fix that. So I'm going to do it. And yeah, other than that, everything is super clear with the pattern. No problems there at all. I totally recommend this one. Oh, another thing is the collar on her pattern has a really cool detail, and it's actually what sort of drew me to this pattern to begin with, because it's a neat way. I can't remember what it is. It was a while ago that I knit it, but it's an interesting way of doing ribbing, and then she does alternating the color through the collar and the hem and the cuffs as well. And it's really cool the way it looks. And I did knit it that way on my first one. So I decided to do mine with just basic 1x1 rib. And I don't know how many rows I did, maybe like 8 rows or something like that of 1x1 rib. And I'm going to do my cuffs 1x1 rib and my hem as well. So I do like the way that she designed it originally. I think it looks really cool. It's very interesting detail. But I think for mine, I feel like the color is already really, you know, bright and interesting, that it doesn't really need that as well for mine. Okay, and now I'm going to take this off and I'll be right back because I'm going to put my microphone back on again too. So now I wanted to talk a little bit about some of my future plans. So I was at my local yarn shop and I was picking up some needles that I needed, and I saw this yarn sitting on her table. And it's Sirdar Jewelspun. And it's such a pretty color of blues and purples and turquoise. And my son like absolutely loves these like bright, blue and turquoise colors. And so I thought, I'm going to grab this. I'm not sure what I'm going to make with it, but I'm going to get it. And I brought it home and he was like, oh, I love that. So I looked around and I decided to make the Musselburgh, I think, the hat by Ysolda Teague. And this is a very, very popular pattern. It's been knit many, many times. And the reason I chose this one is because this is acrylic. And I have knit hats last year. I knit a few hats last year out of this. And to be honest, they weren't extremely warm. And so I liked the Musselburgh because it's double. It's a double layered beanie. And so I thought with this being doubled, it'll give it a lot more warmth. And it's a double layered beanie with a 4-point crown shaping. And it's actually a fun pattern because you just start knitting it. This is what I've seen on other podcasts. You just start knitting it and then you check your gauge, and then that determines like how you're gonna that determines your gauge at that point, if that makes sense. So I'm not sure about this one though, because it is an Aran weight yarn, and I think that the pattern goes from like all different weights of yarn up to maybe DK or worsted. I'm not really sure. And this is an Aran weight. I did see one pattern where somebody used this exact yarn to do the hat, and it looked great. So I don't know, has anybody else used an Aran weight yarn or a worsted weight yarn to knit the Musselburgh, and did it turn out okay? I'm going to try it anyway. We'll see. And yeah, so that's my next thing that I'm going to cast on. Probably when I finish up my home cardigan, I'm going to cast this one on. We definitely don't need hats right now. And what else I wanted to ask actually for your help in searching for a pattern. So I have sort of a inspiration picture from Pinterest, and I'll put that up, of a sweater that I really want to knit. And so what I like about it is it's a very deep like V-neck, and it looks like ribbed or brioche stitch or something, and it's sort of oversized with the drop shoulders. And I really want to knit something like this, but I can't find a pattern that has all of those, details together. I think like there's V-necks, there's oversized, there's drop shoulder, but I can't find it in like a brioche. And I really, really want to try that stitch. So if you guys have any ideas of patterns, as well as yarns that you think would go well with that pattern, and you want to share that with me in the comments, I would love that because I've been looking for a while and I can't find anything. And then my last future project is one that I talked about on my last episode that I'm really, really still wanting to knit, and that is the DRK Everyday Sweater by Andrea Mowry. And I got my yarn, it arrived. So this is the one that I'm going to be using for that. And this is called Cedar. And again, it's Rerum Natura Ulysse. And I really love this green. It's sort of it's a dusty green. I don't know how to explain it, like foresty green, but dustier. And so I love that. So I'm waiting. I've got the pattern, I've got the yarn. I just have to finish one of these sweaters first. I really like to have like a basic sweater, like the everyday sweater, and then maybe like a cabled sweater or a color work project on the go at the same time. But I can't really handle any more than 2, I think. 2 is my limit, I think. All right, so we've come to the end of my knitting content for this episode. If you're only here for the knitting, that's okay. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you again in hopefully about 2 more weeks. But if you are interested in sticking around and checking out some of my finished sewing projects, I've got 2 of them, as well as I wanted to share with you a very special embroidery project that I've been working on. So a couple of years ago, I came across the embroidery artist named Trish Burr, and I picked up her book called Color Confidence. And this is a beautiful book about embroidery, which she calls needle painting. And it teaches you how to make these beautiful embroidery designs using embroidery threads that you do different shades using long and short stitches to fill in the shapes, and split stitches as well. And you basically use the thread instead of paint to create these pictures. It's such a beautiful book because, you know, there's so many different birds and flower schemes in this book, and they're absolutely beautiful. So it teaches you how to make the design step by step, but it also teaches you a lot about color, like color theory, and, you know, this chapter, what brings embroidery to life, and just all about how to shade with the different colors, and, you know, absolutely beautiful. Different color schemes as well. Yeah, it'll just show you different color schemes, and it lists all the DMC thread numbers underneath it as well, which I found very helpful because I do cross stitch and I design cross stitch patterns. So I found this very useful to, you know, to show you different colors that go well together, different color palettes. Beautiful. And so a couple of years ago, made 2 of her patterns, and I didn't do any from the book. I haven't done those yet, but I did purchase them on her website, which I'll link below if you're interested in trying out one of her patterns. And so my first one is this guy. And this was so fun. So I decided to do a second one. And I think that they turned out really well, considering like this was my first time doing it. She gives a lot of good instruction, and, you know, she has the pattern that you trace onto your fabric, and then gives you all the instructions and the colors of threads to use. And yeah, I loved it. It's so much fun because I like to do cross stitch, and cross stitch I find extremely relaxing, because it, you know, there's a grid and it tells you, you know, where to put each stitch on the grid. But with this, you have to it's a little bit more intuitive. You have to do it on your own. So it feels a little bit more artistic than crafty, if that makes sense. So you can really get involved in what you're doing, because you're shading, it's like you're painting with the thread. It's a different experience than cross stitch. So I decided I wanted to make another one of her embroidery patterns, and this one is called Vintage Bluebirds and Daisies, and I just love this pattern. I'll put a picture up of what it looks like, and I love the 2 little cute birds sitting on the branch, and the color scheme in this one I thought was really pretty, and I think it would look so nice framed in my living room. So why don't we kit this project up and get started on it? So I've been having so much fun with this project so far, and I've been keeping it in this little container, which I think I got from Michael's a few years ago, but these are so handy for keeping your projects in. And yeah, I'll show you what I've got finished so far. It's not a lot. So I've got the branch done and a couple of the leaves done down there. And I find with this, when you get started on it, it doesn't look like much. And you think like, it doesn't look, it's not looking great so far, but you got to just keep going with it. And then you will see the picture come to life. And yeah, it's so much fun. I love all of these different beautiful colors that are in this pattern. That's just some of them. I also have this little with all my bobbins on it. I keep them in this box, but it's very disorganized right now. And my little embroidery scissors, I just keep everything, and then with the pattern instructions as well in the box. And I'm having so much fun with that so far. So I totally recommend, if you're interested in trying this out, to give it a go. And I'll link the pattern that I'm doing as well as her website down below if you're interested. And now we've come to the final segment of the episode, which is the sewing segment. And if you watched any of my episodes before, you know that I'm a huge fan of the Burnside Bibs pattern by Sew House 7. I'm kind of sick of saying that name now because I've talked about it so many times, but I had to make a couple more pairs. So I've made 4 of them in total, and I'm wearing one of them now. And so this is my pair that I made from, I think it's called Lived in Cotton Twill, which I got from Burnside. There we go again. From Blackbird Fabrics. And it's, yeah, really nice medium weight twill fabric. And I just decided I wanted a black pair that I could sort of wear with anything. And I wanted them to be like a fall and winter pair. So yeah, it's such a good weight of fabric. I really like it. And yeah, so I also I sewed another pair out of, I think it's called Everyday Linen. Yeah, Everyday Linen, also from Blackbird Fabrics. And I'm just going to show you the color of it more than anything here. It's very wrinkly. What do you guys do with your linen? Do you iron it, or is it supposed to look like casual and wrinkly? I don't know. I always end up ironing them. Yeah. Anyway, this is the color Denim. And I love these ones too. So I'll insert a picture or a video of me wearing these ones so you can see how they fit. And I love this. So these are my 4th and final pair, I think, probably. We'll see. I might want another like purple pair, but not for a while, maybe next summer. But yeah, love that pattern. I will link down below where I talk more in depth about the Burnside Bibs if you're interested in those, but I'm not going to bore you with that again because I've talked about them a lot. I'm also in the process of finishing up my coat that I talked about on my last episode, and I'm pretty much done, so that I will have that finished in my next podcast in a couple of weeks, so you can see how that turned out. And I am loving it so far. I think it's the perfect like cozy coat for fall. I can imagine wearing that and going apple picking, or looking for a pumpkin or the pumpkin patch. I don't know. That's what I imagine with that one. So I'm excited to share that with you guys as well. So that is everything that I have to talk about today. Thank you again so much for being here. I totally appreciate you guys. I love being able to talk about making with other crafty people. And yes, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, and only if you want to, please consider subscribing to my channel. It helps YouTube know who to share my videos with other crafty people like you and I. Thank you again so much for being here, and I can't wait to see you again with some more finished objects in the next couple of weeks. Bye!